I think the more we try to repress that inner Hitler, that shadow side, via denial, dissociation, or projection, the more likely Hitler is to rear his head in uglier and uglier ways, because things we repress have a tendency to fester and transmute. I think the challenge then is to acknowledge and confront the Hitlers within us.
This is Kathrin, a lesser-known breadtuber that seems to be absent from many conversations about this genre of YouTube. But credit to her, she has kept it up for 5 years and done some relatively good numbers on her videos. I have had a particular interest in her because I believe Kathrin to be completely lost in the breadtube source. And because of this, from time to time, she'll say things that I find to be absolutely insane. So I've watched a bunch of her content and I'm here to share my findings. And I would like to give Kathrin one piece of praise, and that is that she has found herself a niche, that being incorporating spiritual and mystical style commentary into her videos.
If I mention psychedelics as plant allies, people claim it's unscientific. If I suggest it might be instructive to listen to the wisdom of our bodies, nature, our ancestors, people say it's hippy-dippy mumbo-jumbo.
And you know, this isn't my thing, but I'm giving her a point for originality. Maybe Kathrin can find a route to break free from the shackles of generic breadtube arguments.
But I do worry that the rejection of these things often mirrors the very logic of white supremacist capitalist patriarchy.
Okay, maybe I was being naive. It's all going to be the same old shit again. It's long, faux intellectual video essays about the harms of patriarchy and capitalism, delivered with a cadence that if you're unfortunate enough like me, you'll be able to recognize as a dead ringer for the delivery of the type of poetry women do, where they talk about how they dislike their previous boyfriends and how they're really sad about oppression, hanging on certain words to try to make things sound profound, does not make this content more palatable.
When you first clicked on this video, what crossed your mind when you heard my southern British accent?
Well, for me, I have my own personal Vietnam flashbacks of the times when I used to think it was a good idea to hook up with hippie chicks. No, Matilda, it's Sunday. I don't want to eat porridge at a drum circle and listen to people recite poetry. But Kathrin covers all of the predictable topics you'd expect from a breadtuber: capitalism, patriarchy, colonialism, all the good stuff. And this has distilled in her a strong sense of guilt and a bit of a saviour complex.
When I was at university, we got free career counselling in our final year. And I remember saying to my career counsellor, "Can you tell me what job makes the most difference in the world?"
Well, Kathrin, I'm glad that you found the most important job of all time, being a breadtube video essayist that chills their Patreon. And look at this, very on brand, you've got the beautiful cosmos with a glowing fist rising up in the middle. And the Patreon tiers are all on brand too. You can be a horizon voyager, a cosmic dream weaver, a utopian artisan, or if you want to pay $35 a month, you can become a celestial conduit. But what I really want to get into is the guilt that her ideology has bestowed upon her. So let's take a look at the video. I travelled the world and I regret it.
I'm supposed to say that I enjoyed every moment, that travelling transformed me, that it was the best time of my life. But in this video, I want to talk about why the opposite is actually the case. Why, in hindsight, I regret a lot of my travels, and why travelling is kind of overrated.
Okay, she's going to make a case for why she didn't enjoy the huge opportunity she had to travel the world.
One of my primary motivations for travelling was escapism from the daily rat race and drudgery of capitalism. Meanwhile, the poorest at home and abroad never get the opportunity to escape the brutality of their lives.
So other people can't have the same experience as Kathrin, and that fills her with such guilt that in retrospect she does not look back fondly at her time travelling.
They are too poor. They are too poor to go anywhere. They are too poor to escape the reality of their lives.
And hey, are you thinking of going travelling? Well, maybe have a listen to what revolutionary activist Kathrin has to say about it, and then think again.
Rather than questioning why modern life is such that so many of us feel the need to escape from it, the privileged amongst us can opt out or take a break from the system rather than challenging it. Problems that used to be solved via unionizing, organizing, and agitating can now be solved for a minority of us via a light travel excursion.
You think you're going to go and enjoy yourself? You think you're going to go and take a break? Well, we live in a capitalist, patriarchal, white supremacist society, so how about you join our anarchist protest instead? Oh, and that money you've been saving up? How about you do something good with it, like becoming a celestial conduit? But seriously, this isn't just a bad faith clip, this is a big point to her argument.
But we really have to question the ethics of that escapism if it's based off of the suffering of others, has a pacifying effect on society, and blunts the edges of political resistance.
This just doesn't sell the ideology to me. Become a progressive anti-capitalist, and you too can stop enjoying things because of the overwhelming guilt of your privilege. But don't worry, if you're white and you're feeling a lot of white guilt, well then you can be like Kathrin and just refuse to be white. And on the face of it, that might sound completely crazy. And if you haven't had the unfortunate life trajectory to understand where she's going with this, let me fill you in. So Kathrin's concept of whiteness uses a similar understanding to what friend of the show Thought Slime talks about in his video, where he says, what is the definition of whiteness? And he'll say these things like, but some people look a bit brown and are still considered white. And he'll go on like this, picking away at the edges of the definition to the point that he says that whiteness doesn't really mean anything. So then he can swoop in and drop a couple truth bombs being like, and you know why the concept of whiteness actually exists? It's used to oppress people. Brilliant stuff if you're a middle-class white person that hates yourself, but you sound like a complete maniac to any normal person. When I was watching stuff for my Thought Slime video, I shrugged this off as some stupid rage bait, but Kathrin must have also came across this concept, and she has ran a bloody mile with it.
I am a white person living in a white supremacist society. I am born into its logic, encultured into its worldview, suffused with its habits. It's corrupting me and killing me. I want desperately to be liberated from it. That's where this video starts, with an acknowledgement that my words today are born out of selfishness. I want to find a way out of whiteness so that I can claim my full humanity. My hope is that in drawing attention to the deleterious effects of whiteness, we can begin to recognize that our own liberation as white people is inextricably linked with the liberation of all.
So Kathrin uses the concept of whiteness so loosely that it just becomes a catch-all term for anything bad. She talks about problems that her family have, but these aren't personal things that they need to fix. It's because they've been indoctrinated into whiteness.
The men are mostly all alcoholics, half of them are mentally unwell, and my aunt, who might as well be called Karen, gets her life meaning by going on package holidays, then getting a refund by complaining to customer service. The dullness of whiteness, the lack of meaning, the lack of true fulfillment, the lack of real feeling. Is this really all life is about?
This broad usage of a term to be able to explain away any problems people have is so useless. It just becomes a meaningless boogeyman in the same way that breadtubers use the term capitalism. Capitalism is why this is ruined. Capitalism is why this thing in your life is bad. But for Kathrin, she is using the buzzword whiteness for this video, and whiteness she believes to be the cause of death for her childhood friend.
My first friend and best friend when I arrived in England was a boy who died at 16. Medics ruled that he died of poor health, but in my opinion, he also died of whiteness.
What an absolutely ludicrous thing to say. Imagine Kathrin filing an autopsy report.
He also died of whiteness.
Seriously, if you happen to watch this video and you just nodded along to this, please just stop watching content online, go and watch a Netflix serial killer documentary or something. Because if you think this is cool and you start mimicking these talking points in real life, I'm almost sure this is going to have a negative impact to you socializing with people. So Kathrin's explanation for this is that she had this childhood friend that had a hard life and started falling into right-wing beliefs because of this.
And yet, despite whiteness being a cause of his suffering and eventual death, throughout his life, he increasingly became invested in white supremacy. He went from the sweetest, kindest boy at 5 years old to staunchly anti-immigrant, anti-social safety nets, pro-privatization.
Refugees are taking our jobs. We shouldn't be giving tax dollars to black people.
Were some of his frequent talking points in his teenage years.
And to be fair, when people become obsessed with certain political beliefs to the point that it's all they talk about, they can become incredibly annoying to be around. But the revelation Kathrin comes to because of this is truly unbelievable.
So yes, my best friend died of poor health, but I think he was also murdered. Or perhaps more accurate would be to say he was dead long before his 16th birthday. Because to disregard solidarity, brotherhood, and the beauty of resistance culture, to instead fight for the suffering of your fellow beings and your very own body, is to die a spiritual death, long before you take your last breath.
I don't know if that rhyme at the end was intentional, but it hit. That was some real shit right there. But seriously, if she's earnestly saying this, Kathrin must just lack self-awareness to a dangerous level. Like, I think a breadtuber such as Kathrin believes that she needs to have this profound vulnerability that leads her to saying other crazy things such as this.
These days, despite the fact that I see myself as a leftist, committed to social justice, and appropriately anti-racist, if I'm really honest, I think on some deep subconscious level, I still fear non-white people.
Honest critique here, I don't think this is having the impact that Kathrin is intending, because all I am feeling from this is a visceral second-hand embarrassment. But Kathrin, she does get some backing from some other thinkers in this video. There's this absolutely lovely woman. Let's take a listen to what she has to say.
One of my favorite thinkers on unlearning internalized oppression is the writer and poet Sonia Renee Taylor.
And just a quick one, maybe thinkers is an academic term, but when I hear someone use it, I just feel immediate revulsion. There must be a better term to use, just sounds so pretentious.
The less that you identify on a soul level with whiteness, meaning, and that doesn't mean eschew it, that means look for it and remove it from yourself, right? It is not, oh, that's not me. It's, oh, I don't want that to be me. Something is rotting in here. Let me get to investigating so that I can remove that. Because it's stinking up my space. It is about whiteness, the construct that is rotting the material and spiritual and economic and political realities of Black and brown people around the world, while also at the same time rotting the internal spiritual and emotional and mental lives of those who were assigned whiteness at birth. You are struggling in this system as well. It is killing you too. It's killing you. It's killing all of us.
So I'm sure we've all heard AFAB, but now we have AWAB.
Those who were assigned whiteness at birth.
And what, people are going to presumably racially transition?
We might even manage to stop being white.
Good luck with that, Kathrin, but I don't think it's going to happen. But I think we've hit the peak of crazy today, so I'm going to leave it there. Part of me does think that Kathrin is somewhat intentionally rage baiting with these videos, so I'd advise not going to interact with her videos, leaving comments and the such, because I do think it actually helps her out. I got suckered into watching this rubbish, and don't make the same mistake that I did. And with that being said, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like on it and sub to the channel, and thanks for watching.